Greetings. So last Friday, July 26th, 2019, Vocab Malone paid a visit to the Dallas, Texas chapter of GMS, the Great Millstone Israelite Group, and he discussed a variety of subjects with them, including Lashawan Qadash, the unique form of Hebrew that most One West Israelites endorse. And Vocab wanted to discuss the plausibility of Lashawan Qadash within the context of Matthew 27:46. So to explore the question, did Jesus speak Lashawan Qadash? And I found the discussion quite interesting, although to be blunt, I found the sorts of replies that he received from the members of GMS to be cringeworthy. I mean, they were really bad. But nonetheless, I'd like to look at some of the discussion in this video. The original footage can be found on the GMS Dallas Reincarnated account. It's actually a 3-hour video, but I'm only going to show about 10 minutes of this, the portion where they discuss Lashawan Qadash, and this picks up at about the 38-minute mark of the video. So let's jump right into it.
Way of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience, right, towards the Most High by the resurrection of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. So you can.
Why'd you change the words of the Bible, my friend?
All you want.
Why'd you just change the words of the Bible?
Stop.
It doesn't say Yahweh Shai.
That's his name.
Okay, you want me to give you proof? Jesus didn't speak Lashawan Qadash?
1 Corinthians chapter 1.
I'll give you proof he didn't speak your version of Hebrew. Are you ready? None of you standing here will be able to answer this. Guaranteed. Now here's what I'll show you. Matthew 26. Matthew 27, I'm sorry. Verses 47. You guys ready? 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Now, that's a transliteration of what Jesus said on the cross. How in Lashawan Qadash should you say, my God?
Aliyah.
And Lash, right.
Aliyah.
Right. But what did Jesus actually say? Eli, my God.
Okay, so let me interrupt here real quick and just explain what's going on so far. There's a certain word, so it's spelled Aleph Lamed Yod. I'll put it here on the screen in both the standard Hebrew script, the Ashuri script, and the Phoenician script, which some people call the Paleo Hebrew script. Whatever case, there's this word spelled Aleph Lamed Yod, which means my God. It's the word God with the first person singular pronominal suffix attached to it. And this word my God in standard Hebrew is pronounced Eli, and the proponents of Lashawan Qadash say that that is an incorrect pronunciation. They claim it's a Yiddish pronunciation. They claim that the actual pronunciation is Aliyah. They take the position that every Hebrew character has only one possible vocalization, and therefore they say that this word would be Aliyah. Now, what's interesting here, the point that Vocab is trying to make, is the New Testament quotes Jesus using this word, and the transliteration has him saying Eli, not Aliyah. And so the question is, how do they reconcile that with this modern concoction that they claim is the true Hebrew? So let's continue.
The transliteration is Eli, not Aliyah.
Aliyah, bro. That's what
Eli
means.
You missing the point?
L is Allah.
The transliteration. No, he's speaking real Hebrew.
It's the
not
Aliyah,
Hebrew.
bro.
So what's real?
got cut
What's
again.
real Hebrew?
Here's the
No,
problem.
what's real Hebrew?
What Jesus spoke?
Yiddish?
What Jesus spoke?
Yiddish real Hebrew?
Sure.
Really quickly, notice that one of the men brought up the word Yiddish. He's essentially accusing Vocab of endorsing Yiddish when he's endorsing a standard form of Hebrew, and apparently a form of language that was employed by Jesus as well, according to the New Testament. But he's accusing it of being Yiddish. It's completely anachronistic, but nonetheless, Vocab gives a good answer here.
What's German have to do with it?
Okay, I'm just trying
What's
to figure
German
out.
have to do with it?
What's Hebrew then?
I'm in the Bible right now. Why are you going to Germany for?
What are you saying?
Let's go back to here. He says Eli, Eli, which is Eli, Eli. Why doesn't he say what he just said? No, it's not. You don't have an E sound in your fake language.
It's no E sound in it.
Okay, do you have an E sound in your fake language?
I have a precept. Okay.
No one can answer
Ain't
this.
no E sound in the H Hebrew.
But yet Jesus said, Eli, Eli.
What he said?
That is
Bro, you don't understand.
Transliteration, bro.
Yes, exactly.
It's not Hebrew.
What is
Right.
transliteration?
That's not
bro?
Hebrew.
Transliteration communicates the way words sound. You guys know that?
So how is this man
Right.
accused of Jesus?
In that exchange right there, the member of GMS yelled out, it's a transliteration, but he didn't seem to understand the significance of that. And Vocab gave the correct understanding of what a transliteration is. Nonetheless, we should go over that real quickly right now and explain the difference between translation and transliteration. A translation attempts to convey meaning. If you're translating a word or a sentence or a paragraph, you're attempting to convey what the words mean. However, transliteration does not attempt to convey meaning, rather it attempts to convey sound or pronunciation. So, for example, let's use the word shalom, the word that is in standard Hebrew understand and honestly, according to our ancient evidence, understood to be pronounced shalom. GMS members would say it's pronounced shalawam, but whatever the case, this word here, if we were to translate it, we would attempt to convey what it means and say shalom means peace. However, if we were to transliterate it, we would attempt to convey how it sounds, and we would write out S-H-A-L-O-M. We're attempting to show how it's pronounced, and so we'd say shalom. Peace is the translation. Shalom, written out, is the transliteration. And this is significant because each person's transliteration reflects what the writer thinks the word is pronounced, how the writer thinks the word is pronounced. So you have the author of Matthew does not believe that Jesus said Alayah. He believes that Jesus said Eli. According to the Bible, Jesus said Eli. And yes, that's a transliteration, but it's significant because it records the way that Jesus' statement was pronounced. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the word that's under discussion. Even if you didn't have recordings of our respective voices, you could tell how we thought the word was pronounced based on how we transliterated it into the Latin script. So for example, you have this word Aleph Lamed Yod, and we pronounce it two different ways. If they transliterated it A-L or A-H-L-A-Y-A, that would convey that they think it's pronounced Alayah. And if we transliterated it E-L-I, that would capture that we think it's pronounced Eli. And this is important. Our transliterations reflect the way that we think the word is pronounced. The transliterations capture the way the writer thinks the word sounds. And this is significant because just as this works this way in the Latin script, so too it works the same way in the Greek script. The author could have, if Matthew thought that Jesus had said Alayah, he could have easily written that out. It would just be alpha, lambda, alpha, iota, alpha. But instead, he wrote eta, lambda, iota. That's significant because you have, if the author thought that Jesus had said Alayah, he could have transliterated that, but instead he transliterated it Eli, showing that the ancient understanding was that Jesus said Eli, he did not say Alayah. And therefore, the reason why is because Jesus spoke actual Hebrew. He did not speak Lashawan Qadash.
Oh, notice this. Change subject. You just changed the subject. I'll go to that subject. I'm cool with that. I'll go with that subject. But here's my point. Here's my point. Eli.
He didn't say Eli, man.
Okay. He spoke true Hebrew. That's just translated in.
Why didn't he say what he said when I asked the question?
Listen. Jeremiah.
Everyone here, take note. There was no answer.
Right.
Why?
Jeremiah
Because you don't speak real Hebrew.
He broke it down into Hebrew. He's just a clown. Jeremiah.
Hey, go to the, instead of name calling, go to the text.
For those that watch
You
the
can't do
adultery
it.
Stay in the text and take.
But yet you won't go where I went because you're afraid.
You're not listening to the text.
This is the frustrating point. You know why?
Hold your peace, bro.
So now he took the shades off.
Bro,
Hey, you being disrespectful to the scripture. You don't want
then how come you didn't? Why would you cut me off when I read that?
No, we didn't.
Let's read the Bible. Let's read the Bible.
No answer.
Let's just
No answer. Here's what we've seen so far. Jesus doesn't speak your language. You don't obey Matthew 28.
Washes over you, man.
You're done talking.
And you know what else we've seen?
You're done talking.
You know,
Right. With the capital W.
you know what else we've seen?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can I real quick? But when the scripture
Yes,
talks
sir.
about Abaddon too, it says in the Hebrew tongue Abaddon. Is that how you say it in the
Fuck.
Hebrew?
Right.
It says, no. You still got to translate it to the actual Hebrew.
What?
amazingly, right there, he gave another example. The GMS member gave another example which actually works against him. In Revelation 9:11, there's a transliteration of the word Abaddon, and the text of Revelation transliterates the relevant word Abaddon. And yes, that's the standard pronunciation of the word. I mean, you can see this Hebrew word used in the Old Testament in Job 26:6, Job 28:22, Job 31:12, Psalm 88:11, Proverbs 15:11, maybe elsewhere. And that the standard understanding of that word would be that it's pronounced Abaddon. And Abaddon, they would say, no, it's pronounced Abadawan or something like that. But you see that we have these ancient transliterations that work against Lashawan Qadash. We see that Jesus wasn't speaking Lashawan Qadash, and the writers of the New Testament weren't using Lashawan Qadash.
Letting that go. That
I'm over here. Look at me.
That early comment was very stupid.
Transliterate.
So when
define transliteration
says in the Hebrew tongue Abaddon, is that the actual Hebrew word? When it says in the Hebrew tongue Abaddon in the book of Revelation, is that the actual Hebrew word?
That's not the way you pronounce it.
No.
I'm not sure what thing you're talking about. I'm not sure what thing you're talking
Revelation
about.
chapter
But you're still not answering the main question.
And they had
Because you made a point about the word Eli being Hebrew.
No, that's not my point. We're saying the transliteration that Matthew communicated, which shows us the sound of the word Jesus uttered, is not in
What is the character? What are the characters?
He should have said...
What are the characters? What characters make up Eli in Hebrew? What Hebrew characters?
See, he's not writing in Hebrew, he's writing in Greek.
Okay.
Bro.
It's Eta, Lambda, Iota.
Okay.
It's Eta, Lambda, Iota.
Yeah, when
That's
you
what
take
it
that
is.
back to the Hebrew.
That's what it is.
What is that?
Hebrew.
What it is Aleph, Lamed, Yod.
Is what?
Aleph, Lamed, Yod.
Come on.
That's right.
Aleph, Lamed, Yod.
That's right.
Where did the vowel come?
Yeah.
Where did your vowels come from, though?
Gracious.
See, right there, when he yells La, Ya, he thinks that's some sort of definitive argument, and that's because he assumes, as all proponents of Lashawan Qadash assume, he assumes that each Hebrew character has only one possible vocalization, that being an A-class vowel. So, for example, you have the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet. You have Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Daled, He, Wa, Zayin, and they think those are only pronounced A, Ba, Ga, Da, Wa, Za. When in reality, the way Semitic languages work, and this is the way Hebrew works, among other Semitic languages, this is the way Aramaic works, this is the way Arabic works, the reality is that each Hebrew character has multiple vocalizations. So Aleph is not simply A, it can be pronounced A, I, O, U. Bet, the second character, is not simply pronounced Ba, it can be pronounced Ba, Bi, Be, Bo, Bu. Same thing with Gimel. It's not strictly pronounced Ga. It can be pronounced Ga, Ge, Gi, Go, Gu. Each character has multiple possible vocalizations. Now, here's the thing. Eventually, they're going to bring up the Masoretic text, and you can clearly see that in the Masoretic text. The Masoretic text clearly conveys the understanding through its pointing, through its nikudot, through the dots and dashes, the diacritics, which are put in there to convey sound, that each Hebrew character can be pronounced in a variety of ways. They're going to pretend like that's something that was introduced at the time of the Masoretes, and Vocab will give the proper answer to that. But what we see here is centuries before the time of the Masoretes, it was already understood that Hebrew characters had multiple vocalizations. So, for example, Aleph, when it's used in Adam, for the name Adam, it's transliterated with an alpha, right? It's Adam. However, when it appears in the word for my God, Eli, it's translated with an eta. So clearly, that's an example of how, even in these ancient transliterations, which predate the Masoretes by centuries, we see that's already understood that Hebrew characters can be vocalized in a variety of ways. Each Hebrew character has multiple vocalizations, multiple possible vocalizations, and proponents of Lashawan Qadash think that each Hebrew character has only one possible vocalization. But of course, they've never given any evidence to think that that's true. And that's the most salient point here. The ancient evidence supports the mainstream position. They have no ancient evidence on their side. They just expect people to accept it on faith, and you're going to see them sort of allude to that in a moment.
Where did your vowels come from?
That's the way that we break it down. If you don't have faith in it, cool.
Why?
If you don't have faith in it,
Okay.
cool.
Did you notice how he said, if you don't have faith in it, cool? I'm going to play that part again as I play the rest of it, but that's significant because it's recently become an understanding within GMS that Lashawan Qadash is accepted on faith. That wasn't the way it always was. For a long time, for decades, different One West Israelite groups would pretend like this is the way the evidence points. However, as they started to get beaten up on the topic, on this doctrine, GMS started to admit that it was actually a thing of faith. And it's interesting, we can actually date when that started to happen. Back in December of 2017, Vocab Malone had a very good video titled Abba Bivens and Ariyah, a Hebrew Israelite secret, and it covered the tribes chart, the history of the tribes chart, and also covered the history of Lashawan Qadash, which got into this rumor that maybe the early form of it started with Abba Bivens rather than with Ariyah, and that Abba Bivens was claiming that a man in a gray suit had met him. Whatever the case, that same month, December of 2017, Tahar, apparently shaken up by that video, had alleged, as he was criticizing other members of GMS, former members of GMS, and in the midst of that, he alluded to Vocab's video, and he called Lashawan Qadash a thing of faith. So actually, let's play what Tahar said back in December of 2017, and then we'll replay what this member of GMS Dallas just said. Here we go.
All you guys that left GMS or got kicked out or whatever the case may be, you guys still call on the name of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. What you got from us, the spirit didn't come down. Hey, a man in a gray suit didn't come in your kitchen and tell you the Most High's name is Yahweh and the Son's name is Yahweh Shai. You got that from us, and you believed it through faith that was his name. You guys still keep your same ancient Hebrew names, the Lashawan Qadash. You still say Hebrew words in the Lashawan, or the so-called Lashawan Qadash. All right, whether it's made up or not, according to a Vocab Malone, you got that from us, and you believed it through faith.
That's the way that we break it down. If you don't have faith in it, cool.
Why?
If you don't have faith in it,
Okay.
cool.
Why should I have
But
faith?
don't say that we're just stupid.
I never
we
said
know
that.
It was a
That's what you say to me.
Or
I never once
then
said
we
that.
know it was a
I'm saying you
La
can't
or
support.
Lamed.
Hey, did
then
I
we
say-
know it was a Yah or the Yod. That's how we pronounce. That's how we believe that it should be pronounced.
Did I say you were stupid? I never talked that way.
Yeah, you can. You said
No,
we don't have,
I
we
said
don't have the
Lashawan.
spirit. We said we don't know anything.
Well, you said that about me too, so we believe that about each other.
All
So
right
let's
then.
just deal with it.
All right,
Because
cool.
one of me and 20 of you, we can handle it.
I'm just saying
Here's
you're
what I'm
wrong
saying.
concerning our understanding of the word Eli.
The vowels are the key here.
The
vowels
aleph don't make an E sound.
Right there, you heard him say the aleph does not make an E sound. The aleph don't make an E sound. That, as we covered earlier, that pertains to their assumption that each Hebrew character has only one possible vocalization, and that being an A-class vowel, the ah sound. He thinks that the aleph only can be vocalized as ah. Now, the problem is that if you learned actual Hebrew, you would learn that each Hebrew character has multiple vocalizations. One of those vocalizations for the aleph is like the E in bed, sound, like in Eli. Now, they might say that's Yiddish, that's something that's introduced by the Masoretes, but what we see is that long before Yiddish, long before the Masoretes, in the ancient transliterations of Hebrew, we see Hebrew characters, including the aleph, had multiple possible vocalizations, and one of those vocalizations was that sound, like the E in bed.
Look, the point is your vowels were made by Ariyah.
This is where you get your pronunciation.
Okay,
Look, let me. Okay, look. So you got the Masoretes, right? They were a group of Jewish
Bro, this is before the Masoretes.
Between the 6th, who worked between the 6th and the 10th century.
I know this argument.
Based primarily in the
Rakah
early
tried to
medieval
use
Palestine,
this.
the
We
city
know.
of Tiberias, Jerusalem, as well as Iraq. Each group compiled
They
a
used the
system.
Aleppo Codex to do the King James.
You know how you're wrong?
Each group
Read
compiled
the
a system
Septuagint.
of pronunciation and grammatical guides
I know.
in the form of diacritical notes.
Brother,
included
read the
on historical
Septuagint.
biblical text.
When it translates to
Okay?
Hebrew, it
So
lets
that,
you know
hey,
how
that
it's
was
spoken.
That was way after Yahushua.
Yeah, I know. That's the point of my
What
argument.
you're pronouncing is what he just read.
No, it is certainly not.
Yeah,
Let me show you what happened. Let me show you what really happened in real life. The Masoretes made the sounds for what the Hebrews were already speaking.
And there you have it. They still think that these vocalizations that they disagree with were introduced by the Masoretes, those who produced the Masoretic text and placed in a number of diacritical marks, dots and dashes known as nikodot, to symbolize the different vocalizations. The chief problem with their argument, as was touched on earlier in the video and was also pointed out by Vocab, is, and it ironically, even they themselves stumbled onto it without realizing it, the chief problem with their argument is we have transliterations which predate the Masoretes by centuries, which show the same vocalizations. That's significant. And so what that shows is that the vocalizations existed before the Masoretes. And this is what brings us to the point that Vocab brought up. He was trying to give them a nuanced understanding of what the Masoretes did. They did not introduce a whole array of vocalizations. What the Masoretes did was they introduced symbols, which they introduced diacritical marks, which symbolized vocalizations that had already existed for centuries. That's the difference. They didn't introduce the vocalizations, they introduced symbols which represented those vocalizations, and those vocalizations had existed for centuries. They were included the vocalizations that were used by Jesus Christ himself, and that's significant, and that works against Lashawan Qadash as well as against their claim that the vocalizations only came into play during the time of the Masoretes. When you look at these ancient transliterations, including in Matthew 27:46, you see that those vocalizations long predated the Masoretes.
Now let's do this. Instead of jumping around, defend Ariya's invention of Lashawan Qadash. Do you know how he's reported to have received it? An angelic vision.
Okay, that's it on that. They continued to talk for more than an hour, but not on this particular subject. They veered off into other subjects, but I think it was intriguing seeing this footage, seeing that they were totally unprepared for Vocab's argument, for his appeal to Matthew 27:46, and the answers they gave, with all due respect to them, I'm not trying to be deliberately disrespectful, but I'm sorry, with all due respect to them, the answers that they did give were terrible. They just were very poor, and they clearly have not thought deeply on this subject. Hopefully this can be discussed in more detail with either with them or with other members of GMS. It's an interesting topic. Lashawan Qadash is a subject that's been of interest to me for quite some time, although unfortunately it's been my experience that the proponents of Lashawan Qadash don't want to discuss the subject with people who are familiar with the subject and have objections. Whatever the case, I look forward to the comments of others. As always, God bless.
None of you standing here will be able to answer this.
You got that from us, and you believed it through faith.
That's the way that we break it down. If you don't have faith in it, cool.
Why?
If you don't have faith in it,
Okay.
cool.
Why